Good morning, everyone! Today's quick but exciting topic in biochemistry is all about fats and oils, their differences in saturation and melting point. But what really makes them different? Here's what we're expected to do by the end of the lesson. Before we dive into our main discussion, let's warm up with a quick activity to check what you already know about lipids. You may pause the video if you want more time. Did you get all the answers right? If not, no worries. We're about to go over everything together. To kick things off, let's start with a quick game. Did you guess it right? Whether you did or not, no worries. We're about to understand fats and oils better with a quick overview. Fats and oils are actually the most common lipids found in nature. They're mainly classified as triglycerides, which means each molecule is made up of 3 fatty acids and 1 glycerol. These molecules serve important functions in your body, including energy storage, cushioning internal organs, transporting fat-soluble vitamins, and acting as heat insulators. Here's something interesting. Fats, which usually come from animal sources, are solid at room temperature. Oils, often from plant sources, are liquid at room temperature, around 25 degrees Celsius. Pure fats and oils are actually colorless, odorless, tasteless, lighter than water, and poor conductors. Most of its flavors and colors come from foreign substances that dissolve in the fat. Let's now test if you've been following along. Let us now move on to the next part of our lesson, saturation of fatty acids. To help you understand this better, I'll show you a short but very informative video that explains salutation and structure of different fatty acids.
Trans fats, saturated fats, polyunsaturated monoglutamate what? People toss these words around all the time. Good fats and bad fats and what you should and shouldn't be eating, but what are they really talking about? Alright, so first we have to talk about what a fat actually is. Fats all have a pretty similar chemical structure of 3 fatty acid chains stuck onto a glycerol molecule to make a triglyceride. These fatty acid chains are long strands of carbon atoms arranged in a zigzag pattern. Now we have to step back just 1 second to carbon bonding. Carbon atoms each have the ability to make 4 chemical bonds. So in fatty acid chains, each carbon atom is using 1 bond to hold onto the carbon in front of it and 1 bond to hold onto the carbon behind it. In many fatty acid chains, all of the other available bonds will be filled with hydrogen atoms. In this case, the fatty acid chain is said to be saturated with hydrogens, a saturated fat. Now it's possible that 2 of those carbon atoms could double bond to each other. The formation of this double bond would mean that some of the hydrogens would disappear. Thus, the fat would now be an unsaturated fat. If there's only 1 double bond, it's called a monounsaturated fat. And if there are more, it is called a polyunsaturated fat. The carbon chain would additionally have to bend to accommodate this double bond. This means that instead of having a nice zigzag, you now have a kink in your fatty acid chain. Now, zigzagged fatty acid chains are all the same shape, so they stack very well. This stacking creates things like solid fats, like a stick of butter. However, unsaturated kinked fatty acid chains don't stack very well, so they create things like liquid fats, like oil. So what about those trans fats? Well, trans fats are also unsaturated fats, but their kink goes in the opposite direction. This naming is based on the difference between cis and trans bonds. Cis means on the same side, whereas trans means on the opposite side. So while there is still a kink in this bond, the trans fats actually stack pretty well and can form solids. And they're not too easily broken down by your body. So not so great. May your ingredient lists be a little less mystifying. Go forth, do science.
That was a lot of good information into just 2 minutes. Now, let's test how much you remember. I've prepared a quick ungraded quiz for you. Go to the quizzes link below and match each definition or description to the correct type of fat. Are you done answering the quiz? Great! Let's now move on to the next part of our lesson, melting point differences. Why do some fats like butter remain solid at room temperature, while others like olive oil are liquid? This is because of their structure and saturation. Let's take a look at some fatty acids. Lauric acids contain 12 carbon atoms. Palmitic acid contains 16 carbon atoms. Stearic acid contains 18 carbon atoms. As the carbon chain length increases, the melting point also increases. Why? Because longer chains have stronger van der Waals forces, which require more heat to break. Saturated fatty acids have straight zigzag chains that pack tightly. This makes them solid. On the other hand, unsaturated fatty acids have kinks due to the cis double bonds, which prevent tight packing, making them liquid at room temperature. Now, let's test your understanding. So, what happened there? Notice how physical state connects directly to their chemical structure. Now, let's talk about cis versus trans fats. Even though both have double bonds, trans fats are more linear, allowing them to pack tightly like saturated fats, so they also tend to be solid at room temperature. Example. So let's compare. Arachidic acid containing 20 carbon atoms, saturated, and arachidonic acid, polyunsaturated. Even though both have long chains, arachidonic acid has multiple double bonds, which cause bending. This dramatically lowers its melting point, making it liquid at room temperature, unlike arachidic acid. Which of the two do you think is liquid at room temperature? Arachidic acid or arachidonic acid? That's right, arachidonic acid, because of its multiple double bonds and kinked structure. The key importance to remember about melting point is longer fatty acid chains have higher melting points. More double bonds, cis double bonds is equals to kinks have equals to lower melting points. Trans fats is equal to straight chains and equal to behave like saturated fats. So now, what type of fatty acid has no double bonds? What force increases with chain length and affects melting point? What structural features lowers the melting point of unsaturated fats? What type of fat has a double bond but behaves like saturated fat? What kind of bond creates a bend in fatty acid chains? Answers are: number 1, saturated fatty acid. Number 2, van der Waals forces. Number 3, cis double bond. Number 4, trans fat. Number 5, double bond. Now that we've explored the structure and properties of fats and oils, from their saturation to their melting points, let's shift our focus to their real-life applications. How do these properties affect what we eat, how we cook, and our health? Let's review. Fats are usually solid at room temperature and come from animals. Oils are typically liquid at room temperature and come from plants. As previously discussed, Saturated fats, mostly found in animal products like olive oil. Unsaturated fats, mostly found in plant oils. We can further classify unsaturated fats into monounsaturated, contain one double bond in their fatty acid chain, liquid at room temperature but may solidify when chilled. Polyunsaturated, it contains two or more double bonds in the fatty acid chain, and also liquid at room temperature. So what's going on here? You just saw how the type of fat, saturated or unsaturated, directly connects to its structure and behavior in cooking. Saturated fats, like butter, have straight chains that pack tightly, making them solid at room temperature, which is great for baking. Unsaturated fats, like olive oil, have bent chains that prevent tight packing, so they stay liquid, which is ideal for frying or dressings. This explains why olive oil stays liquid even when refrigerated, and why butter melts when heated. It's all about molecular structure. With these examples in mind, how do fats and oils we consume every day actually affect our health? Think about your last meal. What fats or oils did you consume? Do you think those fats are healthy? Yes or no? Fats always get a bad reputation. A lot of people think fats are just unhealthy and should be avoided. But is that really true? Actually, our body needs fat, not just for energy, but for cell growth, protecting organs, absorbing vitamins, and regulating cholesterol and blood pressure. If fats are important, why should we limit our intake of fatty foods? This is because too much fat, especially the wrong kind, can lead to serious health problems such as heart disease, high blood pressure, cancer, obesity, gallbladder disease, and childhood risks such as lifelong heart problems. Unsaturated fats found in olive oil, nuts, seeds, and fish are the healthiest. Saturated fats like red meat, butter, cheese should be limited. Trans fats like processed foods, margarine are best avoided. Now that we've seen how different fats affect our bodies, what do you think are the recommended fats intake at your age? Let's talk about how much fat we should actually be eating. In 2023, the World Health Organization released updated guidelines of fat intake. These are based on the latest research to help prevent serious health conditions that was discussed earlier. Here's what WHO recommends for a healthy diet. Saturated fats should be limited to 10% or less of your total daily energy intake. Trans fats should be less than 1%. Yes, even the ones from natural and animal sources. Total fat intake should be no more than 30% of your daily energy. And most importantly, people aged 2 and above should get the most of their fats. Unsaturated sources like olive oil, fish, nuts, seeds, and avocados. Now, let's be practical. What are better alternatives to saturated fats. We have polyunsaturated fats from fish, flaxseed, sunflower oil. Monounsaturated fats from olive oil, nuts, avocados. Carbohydrates rich in natural fiber, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes. Remember, it's not just about how much fat we eat, but also what kind of fat. Healthy fats is equal to healthy heart. Let's now take a look at this checklist of topics that we have covered. As you go through each item, ask yourself, did I understand this part? Was it aligned with what I was expected to learn? If yes, give it a check. If not, mark it for review. And that wraps up our discussion for today. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You can always rewatch the lesson if you need a quick refresher. And don't forget to complete the activities and assessments provided. They're there to help and reinforce everything you have learned. See you in the next lesson. Bye!